In the wild grasslands of South Africa, a small cheetah cub is watching something terrible. Two lions are attacking his mother. The cub stands frozen, watching helplessly as his mother fights and loses. There is nothing the little cub can do. All the other animals in the area scatter and run away, and just like that, the cub is left completely alone in the world. That night, the orphaned cub wanders through the darkness with nowhere to go. He ends up on a lonely road, and suddenly a car comes speeding toward him. The driver is a farmer named Peter, and he is moving fast. Inside the car, Peter's young son Zan spots something on the road. He tells his dad to stop immediately. Peter isn't sure he hit anything, but Zan is already worried and keeps pushing his dad to stop and check. They pull over. Zan jumps out and carefully traps the little cub in a net. Peter grabs his son and pulls him back just in time. A massive truck roars past them at full speed. It was close. Too close. Zan holds the net and stares at the tiny animal inside. He is amazed. Peter looks puzzled. He looks around and wonders where the cub came from. He says it might be lost. Zan agrees. The cub's mother is nowhere to be seen. Peter thinks for a moment, then suggests they take the cub with them. Zan doesn't need to be asked twice. They stop at a restaurant along the way. Peter prepares a small baby bottle and fills it with milk. He hands it to Zan, who feeds the cub carefully. As the cub drinks, Zan leans in and notices something interesting. Two black streaks running down the cub's face, like painted lines. He looks up at Peter and tells him with confidence, "This is a cheetah." He then goes on to say that cheetahs are the fastest animals in the entire world. He even jokes that this little cub is probably faster than Peter's Porsche. Peter laughs. In that moment, he can see exactly how much his son loves this animal, so he agrees. They will keep it. But he looks at Zan seriously and says that one day they will have to let it go. It is a wild animal, and it belongs in the wild. Zan's face drops a little when he hears this, but he nods and agrees with his dad. When they get home, Peter and Zan walk in and show Kristen, Zan's mom, what they have brought back. Kristen's eyes go wide with shock when she sees the cheetah cub, but she quickly softens. She looks at the cub carefully and doesn't seem to have any serious objection to keeping it. The cub slowly becomes part of the family. It sleeps in Zan's bed. It follows him around the house. It plays in the yard. A few days later, Kristen comes up with a name for the cub, Duma. It means cheetah in Swahili. Zan loves the name immediately. As the weeks go by, Duma grows bigger and stronger. Zan and Peter spend more and more time with him on the farm. Peter also takes this time to teach Zan new things, like how to ride a motorcycle. They ride together across the open land, do chores together, and simply enjoy being a family. Then one day, without any warning, Peter collapses. He falls sick suddenly and has to be rushed to the hospital right away. Zan feels the world go quiet around him. He is scared and sad, but he keeps himself busy by helping Kristen on the farm while his dad is away. Fortunately, Peter recovers, at least a little. He is discharged from the hospital and comes back home. When Zan sees his dad walk through the door, his face lights up. He watches his parents together and feels relief wash over him. Everything feels right again. The next day, Peter and Zan take Duma outside to test his speed. Peter gets on his motorbike and revs the engine. The plan is to get Duma to chase the bike at full speed so he can practice running. Peter accelerates, and Duma launches into a sprint. Within seconds, Duma overtakes the bike completely, leaving Peter and Zan laughing and shaking their heads in disbelief. Even knowing that cheetahs are the fastest animals on Earth, seeing it with your own eyes is something else entirely. But the fun doesn't last long. A few days later, Peter sits Zan down for a serious conversation. He says that Duma needs to go back to where he belongs before he gets too old and too used to people. If they wait too long, Duma won't be able to survive in the wild on his own. Zan argues back. He says Duma doesn't want to leave. He says Duma doesn't want to be wild. But Peter shakes his head gently and explains that they cannot make that choice for Duma. Duma is a wild animal, and deep inside him, he already knows the wild, even if he has never lived in it. Peter's words are calm but firm. Slowly, Zan stops arguing. Peter starts planning the journey. He tells Zan they just need to drive Duma back to the area near where they originally found him. He says they will do it next week. Zan doesn't like it, but he listens. Then one night, Zan is woken up by flashing lights outside his window. He looks out and sees an ambulance. He doesn't understand what is happening. He walks downstairs and finds Kristen standing at the front door. He asks where his dad is. Kristen doesn't answer with words. She just wraps her arms around him. Peter is gone. The days after the funeral feel heavy and slow. The farm feels different without Peter. The house feels different. Zan spends most of his time sitting quietly beside Duma, saying nothing. Duma seems to sense his sadness and stays close. A little while later, Kristen sits Zan down to talk about what happens next. She tells him they have to make some difficult changes. She says she will have to lease the farm. Zan immediately asks if they will still live in the house. Kristen tells him they won't. They will move to the city to stay with his Aunt Gwen while she looks for a job. Zan asks about Duma. Kristen says she will find him a new home, a big nature reserve where he will have plenty of space to run around freely. Zan shakes his head. He doesn't want any of this. He tells her this is not what his dad wanted. He raises his voice, pulls away, and refuses to accept it. But there is no other choice right now. The day comes and they pack up the farm. Zan climbs into the car with Duma and stares out the window as they drive away. Kristen tries to encourage him. She says moving to the city will be scary at first, but she is sure Zan will be just fine. Zan says nothing. He puts his headphones on. Life at Aunt Gwen's house is awkward from the very beginning. Gwen is absolutely terrified of Duma. Kristen tries to calm her down and tells her not to worry. Someone from the reserve will come to pick up the cheetah in a day or two. Gwen nods, but she cannot stop watching Duma with nervous eyes. And Zan watches too, quietly furious that Duma is really going to be taken away. The next morning, Kristen drives Zan to his new school in the city. She tries to give him some advice before he gets out. He ignores her completely, opens the door, and walks away without looking back. That afternoon, while Kristen is out picking Zan up from school, Gwen is home alone with Duma. She tries to sit calmly and read the newspaper, but Duma is curious. He jumps up onto the couch, picks up the TV remote with his teeth, and accidentally turns on the television. The sudden sounds and flashing images from the TV startle him. Duma panics. He runs around the room, knocking things over, crashing into furniture, making a complete mess. Gwen screams and bolts out of the front door, leaving it wide open behind her. Duma runs out. He follows Kristen's car all the way to Zan's school. Zan is sitting in class when he glances at the window and almost falls out of his chair. Duma is right there, on the other side of the glass, staring at him. Zan jumps up and tries to walk out of class. His teacher stops him and says he cannot just leave. But before Zan can argue, a fire alarm goes off throughout the building. The teacher tells all the students to exit calmly and in order. Zan slips out in the crowd. Outside, he quickly realizes that the police have been called. There are officers everywhere searching for the cheetah that has appeared on school grounds. Zan spots Duma and chases after him, following him into the school restroom. He walks slowly and quietly, calling Duma's name. No answer. Then a group of bullies walks in. They surround Zan and demand his money. Zan refuses. They knock him to the ground, but as they stand over him, something moves behind them. Duma walks out from one of the bathroom stalls. The bullies freeze. One look at those golden eyes and sharp teeth, and they drop everything and run, leaving Zan on the floor with a smile on his face. Zan picks himself up, praises Duma, and the two of them slip out of the restroom together, but the police are still nearby. Zan and Duma run. Kristen spots them and shouts for Zan to come back. He doesn't stop. Duma bolts across the road and nearly gets clipped by a passing car. For a terrifying moment, Zan loses sight of him. He searches frantically, and then finds Duma hiding inside a small wooden playhouse on the playground. Standing there, looking at his best friend huddled in that tiny wooden box, Zan makes a decision. He is going to take Duma home, back to the wild, just like his dad always wanted. That evening, he goes back to the farm and takes Peter's old motorcycle. He leaves a note for his mom on the table, telling her what he is doing and why. Then he and Duma head out into the open road. When Kristen finds the note, she stands in the empty kitchen reading it, not knowing whether to cry or scream. Zan rides for a long time. At some point, he stops and checks his map. He can see how far they have traveled, and he can also see how much further they still need to go. He looks over at Duma and asks him out loud if they should keep going. Duma makes a sound. Zan takes that as a yes. They keep moving. Eventually, they reach the salt pans, wide, flat, and silent. And right there, the motorcycle runs out of fuel. Zan sighs and sits down on the cracked ground. He tells Duma he always knew they would run out of gas eventually. He checks his compass to make sure they are still heading in the right direction, then drinks from his half-empty water bottle and gives some to Duma. He thinks. Then he grabs the bike and starts pushing. After walking for a while, he spots a crashed airplane half buried in the sand. He decides to stop there for the night. He finds a section of the fuselage that is still somewhat intact and crawls inside to sleep. In the middle of the night, he hears a noise. A man is outside, crouching near the motorcycle, trying to figure out how to start it. Zan steps out and confronts him. The man looks up, clearly surprised to find a child here. His name is Ripkuna. He is rough around the edges and clearly a survivor. He tells Zan he is heading south. Zan tells him that is a problem because he is going west with his friend. Ripkuna asks what friend, and then Duma steps out of the shadows. Ripkuna slowly backs away. Once the shock settles, Zan asks Ripkuna if he has water. Ripkuna does. Zan offers him a ride on the motorcycle in exchange. Ripkuna agrees, takes out his water, and before he can even react, Zan and Duma have drunk most of it. Ripkuna complains loudly. Then he tries to start the motorcycle and realizes it has no fuel. He stares at the boy. The boy tricked him. Ripkuna shakes his head, but somehow he doesn't really seem angry. He introduces himself. Zan does the same. They shake hands. The next morning, Zan notices something small and furry inside Ripkuna's bag. A bush baby, a tiny wide-eyed animal that somehow ended up there. Ripkuna shrugs and says it has probably taken too many wrong turns, just like he has. Ripkuna then gives Zan some serious news. The nearest river is 5 days' walk from where they are. They do not have enough food to make it. He says they will eventually have to eat one of the animals. Zan does not like this idea at all. Ripkuna says, like it or not, survival comes first. He says they still have a few days before they need to make that call. Back in the city, Kristen is doing everything she can to find her son. She prints missing person notices with Zan's face and Duma's picture and hands them out wherever she goes. Out in the desert, Zan has an idea. He looks at the crashed airplane and spots a parachute. He takes it apart and attaches it to the motorcycle, turning the whole thing into a desert sailboat. When the wind picks up, the parachute billows out, and they glide across the flat salt pans at surprising speed. Ripkuna watches with wide eyes. He asks Zan where he got an idea like that. Zan grins and says his dad taught him. They ride happily until they reach the edge of a shrubland, where the terrain changes and they have to continue on foot. After walking for a while, Zan gets thirsty. Ripkuna drops to his knees and digs into the dry earth with his hands until he finds water beneath the surface. Zan drinks gratefully. A little while later, Zan spots an ostrich and excitedly encourages Duma to chase it. Duma sprints after the bird, but instead of catching it, he comes back with only the ostrich's eggs. Ripkuna looks at the eggs, looks at Duma, and tells Zan, with complete sarcasm, that the cheetah is a truly great hunter. Ripkuna then brings up the idea of selling Duma. He says Zan could make a lot of money. Rich people pay enormous amounts for animals like Duma. Zan shuts the idea down completely. He says Duma is his friend, not something to be sold. Ripkuna keeps pushing. Zan holds firm. Eventually, Ripkuna asks where exactly Zan is planning to go. Zan shows him the map and points to the destination. Ripkuna looks at the map and raises his eyebrows. Zan wants to cross the Okavango River. Ripkuna asks if the boy is sure about that. Zan says yes. Ripkuna says that river is a place of many teeth. Crocodiles, hippos, danger everywhere. Zan says he is not afraid. Ripkuna tells him being smart means knowing when to be afraid. They need to respect the river, not ignore it. That night around the fire, Ripkuna teaches Zan something important. He says that lions are scared of fire. If they ever get surrounded by lions, fire is the only thing that will keep them safe. He offers to help Zan reach part of his destination. Zan says he would appreciate that. They agree to continue together in the morning. But as they walk the next day, Zan checks his compass and notices something is off. The direction Ripkuna is leading them does not match where they need to go. He follows silently for a while, watching and thinking. They eventually pass through a grim stretch of land covered in bones and old skulls. Zan asks about them. Ripkuna says they belong to people who once thought they were too tough to die out here. Then Ripkuna spots something metal sticking out of the sand. He pulls it out, a sharp, old blade. He hands it to Zan and says, in the right hands, "This can take down anything." Suddenly, a helicopter appears overhead, circling low. Zan thinks it might be rescuers. Ripkuna pulls him into cover and says the people in that helicopter are dangerous. Zan is confused. What he does not know is that his mother, Kristen, is inside that helicopter, scanning the ground below for any sign of her son. After circling for a while, Kristen sadly tells the pilot that Zan is not here, and they should move further away. Meanwhile, Ripkuna forces Zan to stay hidden in the brush until the helicopter disappears. That night, under the stars, Ripkuna tells Zan a story. He asks if Zan knows why cheetahs have black lines on their faces. Zan says he has heard it is to reduce glare from the sun during daytime hunts. Ripkuna shakes his head slowly and tells a different story. He says that long ago, a mother cheetah lost her cub. She cried for so long, so hard, and so deeply that her tears burned black streaks down her face forever. The next day, Ripkuna spots an old diamond cave and decides to go in and look around. Zan says they need to keep moving, but Ripkuna tells him to wait. The moment Ripkuna disappears inside, Zan makes a quiet decision. He and Duma will leave without him. They start walking. Then they hear Ripkuna screaming from inside the cave. He is trapped under a cave-in. Zan hesitates. Then he runs back in to help. As he starts pulling rocks away to free Ripkuna, he suddenly stops. He asks Ripkuna directly, "Where are you actually taking us?" Ripkuna says he is taking them to their destination. Zan does not believe him. His compass says they have been heading north, not west. He accuses Ripkuna of leading them toward a nearby town so he can collect a reward for the missing boy and sell Duma on the side. Ripkuna denies it, but not convincingly. He begs Zan to free him first, and then they can talk. Zan looks at him for a long moment, then turns around and walks out of the cave without freeing him. He and Duma keep moving. They reach the Tama River. Zan builds a rough raft from whatever he can find and prepares to cross. Duma is nervous. He has spotted crocodiles gliding silently through the water near the bank. Zan coaxes him gently, and eventually Duma climbs on. They push off from the bank. Midway across, the current suddenly gets violent. The raft is tossed around. They both fall into the water. The crocodiles begin moving toward them. Zan and Duma kick and fight through the current and somehow, barely, make it to the other side, soaking, breathless, and alive. As they pull themselves onto the bank, Zan spots the bush baby from Ripkuna's bag, struggling in the water nearby. He reaches in and pulls it out. On the other bank, the journey continues. They push through the bush until they run directly into a herd of buffalo. The massive animals charge. Zan and Duma run in different directions. Zan trips and falls hard to the ground, but the buffalo keep chasing Duma. Zan gets up and starts searching desperately for his friend. Duma, running at full speed, suddenly runs into a metal trap set by poachers. The cage slams shut. Duma is trapped inside, growling nervously as footsteps approach in the dark. That night, Zan is still searching the forest when a wild boar appears on the path in front of him. Zan freezes, then runs. The boar chases him through the trees. Zan trips, crashes to the ground, and the boar is nearly on top of him. Everything goes black. When Zan opens his eyes, Duma is right there beside him, and so is Ripkuna. Zan blinks in confusion and asks what happened. Ripkuna explains quietly. Duma had been locked in a poacher's cage, and Zan had been knocked unconscious by the boar. Ripkuna had found them both and freed Duma. The morning after, Zan sits beside Ripkuna and apologizes for leaving him in the cave. Ripkuna is quiet for a moment, then admits that Zan was right to suspect him. He really had been planning to take them to the nearby town and collect the reward. He had been thinking about how much Duma was worth. Then Ripkuna opens up. He talks about his life honestly, how he left his family in the village years ago, chasing big dreams in the city. He says he had enormous plans. None of them worked out, and he ended up in jail. He says jail is somewhere he never wants to return. Zan listens. Then he says quietly that he left his mom too. He wonders if she hates him for it. Ripkuna shakes his head and says, "Mothers never stop loving their children." Zan asks how Ripkuna would know that. Ripkuna says simply, because he is a father. Later, Zan tries to get Duma to hunt again. He spots 2 antelopes and encourages Duma to go. Duma runs, but the antelopes are fast and escape easily. Ripkuna sighs and tells Zan they are not eating tonight. As evening falls, they hear music and laughter coming through the trees. A group of tourists is camping nearby. Ripkuna suggests they steal some food. He asks if Zan has any ideas. Zan says he does. The next morning, Zan walks up to the tourist camp with tears on his face, crying dramatically for help. The tourists rush toward him with concern. Zan unbuttons his shirt and pulls out a live snake. The camp erupts in screaming. People scatter in every direction. Zan and Ripkuna meet behind the abandoned tents, laughing and shaking hands. They pack enough food to last them for days. Not long after, Ripkuna finds a boat and rows them closer to their destination. As he rows, he looks over at Zan and says with a smile that the boy will go far in life, as long as he stays out of jail. Zan laughs. Then he takes out his money and tries to pay Ripkuna for all his help. Ripkuna refuses to take it. Zan keeps insisting. When Zan finally threatens to throw the money into the river, Ripkuna lunges forward and grabs it. In exchange, Ripkuna reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small precious stone he found in the diamond cave. He gives it to Zan and tells him to keep it as something to remember him by. A little later, Zan pulls a prank on Ripkuna, pretending to break his own neck by twisting it and going limp. Ripkuna panics and calls out Zan's name over and over. Then Zan sits up laughing. Ripkuna shakes his finger and tells him never to do that again, but he cannot help smiling. After crossing the river, they travel the last stretch on land. Duma spots a dead animal on the ground and walks toward it. He sniffs it, then begins eating. Zan tries to pull him away. Duma growls, a real growl, deep and sharp. Zan steps back. Ripkuna watches and says quietly, "This is what you wanted, remember?" He reminds Zan that Duma is a wild animal. Zan watches his friend eat and feels something change inside him. This is Duma's true nature, and it is beautiful, even if it hurts to see. Ripkuna cheers him up by putting his own hat on Duma's head. Duma looks ridiculous and wonderful. Zan laughs despite himself. They stop to rest at a cave that Ripkuna says his grandfather used to bring him to as a boy. Ripkuna grows quiet and talks about how most of the people he knew when he was young are gone now. Zan stays silent for a while, then asks the question that has been sitting inside him for months. How can someone just disappear forever? How does that even happen? Ripkuna thinks carefully before answering. He says that every person is given a certain amount of time in this world. When that time is done, they leave. But while they are here, they do everything they can. That is all anyone can do. He pauses, then says that after they drop Duma off, he is going back to his village to find his family, even if they are not sure they want to see him. And he tells Zan that he must go back too, back to his mother. Because just like Ripkuna's own family lost him for years, Kristen has now lost both her husband and her son. Zan says things are different now. Nothing is the same. Ripkuna nods slowly. He says that is exactly right. Things are different. That is the point. Change never stops. And the boy who left home on that motorcycle is not the same boy sitting in this cave right now. They pack up and head out for the final stretch. In the distance, Ripkuna points toward his village. He can see it from here, but before they can feel relief, he spots something terrifying. A swarm of tsetse flies moving rapidly toward them. He tells Zan to run. They run, but the swarm is too fast and too large. Ripkuna makes a split-second decision. He throws his jacket over Zan to protect him and takes the full force of the swarm himself, shielding the boy with his own body. The swarm passes, but Ripkuna is already getting sick. Tsetse flies carry sleeping sickness, and within hours, Ripkuna's condition starts deteriorating fast. He warns Zan that it could get much worse. They walk carefully into territory where lions are active nearby. Ripkuna knows they need fire immediately, but rain starts falling. Zan tries desperately to start a fire, but everything is too wet. Ripkuna, growing weaker by the minute, tells him to use the cash, the money Ripkuna accepted as a gift. Burn it. Zan does not hesitate. He holds the flame to the bills and the fire catches. The lions stay back, but Ripkuna is fading. Zan ties Duma to a nearby tree and runs to find help. The moment Zan is gone, Duma grows restless. He can hear lions roaring closer and closer. He works himself free from the rope and runs out to distract the lions, drawing them away from where Ripkuna lies. The lions chase Duma. Duma is faster than all of them. He leads them away and circles back to safety. Zan finds a small hut with an old man inside. The man speaks no English. He asks Zan what he wants in a language that Zan should not know, but somehow does. Zan replies in the same language and tells the man his friend is sick and needs help. The old man and several others from the village follow Zan back through the dark. They carry Ripkuna carefully to the village. At the village, a nurse begins treating Ripkuna with traditional medicines. The next morning, the entire village comes out to stare at this unexpected visitor. A boy, a journey, a story written all over his face. They are curious and warm and kind. The nurse removes the mask of treatment from Ripkuna's face, and it becomes clear. This is Ripkuna's own village. The old man and the nurse recognize him. They send word to his family. When Ripkuna regains consciousness, his wife and children come in to see him. His face, which has been worn and guarded for so long, completely softens. He apologizes to his wife and introduces Zan proudly to his family. Then his mother walks through the door. She sees her son lying there. She rushes to him and holds him. Zan watches this reunion, and without realizing it, he starts thinking about his own mother. Then he notices something. Duma is gone. He walks outside to search and finds Duma with another cheetah, a wild one. They are eating a gazelle they hunted together. Duma is relaxed, natural, free. He belongs here. Zan sits down on the ground and watches them. He thinks about everything his father said. He thinks about everything Ripkuna said. He feels it all settle inside him. Duma eventually walks over to Zan and sits close to him. Zan reaches out and touches him gently. He smiles. Then he says goodbye. He tells Duma he will miss him more than he can say. He wipes his eyes, stands up, and walks back toward the village. Ripkuna is watching from a distance. He does not say anything. He does not need to. He just looks at Zan the way someone looks at a person they are genuinely proud of. A few days later, Ripkuna helps Zan find the motorcycle and fills it with fuel. Zan climbs on, takes one last look around, and drives home. When he arrives, Kristen is standing at the door. The moment she sees him, all the worry and fear that has been sitting on her face for weeks breaks apart. She walks toward him fast and holds him tight, and Zan holds her back. He found Duma a home. He kept his promise to his father. He made it back to his mother. And somewhere out in the wild grasslands of South Africa, a cheetah runs free, faster than anything, exactly where he belongs.